Yeah, it was just crazy, 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 but
Good morning, Mr. Lane. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, good morning. And Commissioner Brook, I see you there as well. You can hear us all right?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Do you have a lot of snow over there, Susan?
None.
None, really?
All gone.
I
Yeah.
guess that's a good thing.
I
We'll
know.
take it over here if you want to send it somewhere.
Oh, you guys got a bunch of snow?
Well, we've only got maybe an inch, but we need the moisture.
Yeah. I think our snowpack's at 100%, so that's
Yeah.
good.
No, it looked good. They were just showing it on the news this morning, so that's
Yeah.
always good to hear.
I just had some burgers the other night from Lane Legacy Beef. So they're carrying it in the stores here in Bozeman, and it's awesome. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
so good.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
My wife does a heck of a job of peddling that stuff. She's all over the state, so I
Yeah.
give kudos to her.
Well, when we get the KOA open in Three Forks, we'll carry it in there too. So I'll reach out to you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Doing a sound check. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, and you sound good as well. Thank you.
And don't forget to get the flag up before we need it too, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Perfect.
Just doing a mic check. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Great. Thank you.
Are we recording yet or just checking? Don't see it.
You're live on YouTube, but I haven't started the recording yet.
Perfect, thank you. Looks like we got everybody on. Just got a couple more minutes and we'll kick it off. All right. 8:30, so I think we will go ahead and start. I will call the meeting to order, and if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag
to the flag
of the United
of the
States
United States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the republic
for which
for
it
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll start with the minutes. First, we'll go with the February 13th regular meeting minutes. If someone would like to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Casey and Brian. All right, any corrections or additions to those minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, the March 31st special meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have Brian and I have Susan. Okay, any corrections or additions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, have you had a chance to look at the commission expenses?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, somebody like to make a motion?
I move to approve the commission expenses.
Okay,
Second.
okay, who was the second?
Lane.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any corrections or additions? Okay, all those in favor of approval of the commission expenses signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. We will start out with, I'm just gonna go who I can see. We're gonna start out with Commissioner Lane. You get to going backwards this year. Well, I don't want to say backwards with you, but
Yeah, believe me, I will prove that to be true. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start out with Region 7. I had no interactions or outside communication with any outside groups since the last meeting. Starting out with ComEd, multiple hunting ed and bow education classes have been held across the region. The annual hunter education instructor workshop was held on March 29th. Kids fishing days have been scheduled for Region 7 communities. These events will instruct over 600 fifth grade aged children in water safety, fish identification, fishing techniques, etc. The dates are in Miles City, April 22nd, Colstrip, May 6th, Glendive, May 8th, and Sydney, May 21st. Admin-wise, the March application period seemed to be similar to previous years. Steady flow of customers and phone inquiries kept the front desk staff pretty busy. Overall, a pretty smooth application period. Staff will continue to assist the public by remaining in the licensing call center in the first drawing until the first drawing is over. And they are also working with block management staff to process block management contracts. Wildlife Department, the spring green up flights have been initiated. Spring moisture in Region 7 is not just relatively low, it's very low this year, but there's plenty of time for additional spring storms, so we're praying for that. The few surveys that have been completed, however, indicate good over the winter recruitment and total number of deer. Sage grouse flights and sharp-tailed grouse surveys have been initiated as well, and initial numbers seem to be fair. Sharp-tailed grouse capture crews are working in Region 7 again this spring. They're currently focusing efforts on the Colstrip and Miles City areas. The Region 7 staff is working with capture crews to find sites that birds can be captured for translocation to Western Montana without impacting local populations or future hunting opportunities. The goal is to capture 180 grouse this spring. Habitat conservation lease work continues to be conducted by wildlife staff, as well as the staff actively engaged in working with landowners on their block management contracts. The hiring process for both the Glendive area biologists and the regional habitat specialist positions have been conducted, and candidates are being evaluated with the hope of having these positions fully staffed in the next few weeks. In fisheries, the regional paddlefish regulations changes are necessitating the update of signage at popular angling sites, and regional fisheries staff are working with our education staff to inform the public of these changes prior to the paddlefish season opening. The Region 7 fisheries staff also hosted the Montana North Dakota Interstate Paddlefish Coordination Meeting. This meeting helps both states coordinate management and regulation of a shared paddlefish population. Upcoming this spring, regional staff will assist North Dakota crews with jaw tagging paddlefish near Williston the weeks of April 14th to the 21st, so this week. And the field crews have also installed an array of telemetry base stations on the Yellowstone River and tributaries. These stations, combined with manual boat tracking, will help track the pallid sturgeon locations and early migrations related to the 2025 spawn. Enforcement-wise, wardens are in the field with a new license year and nicer weather. Turkey and bear seasons have now started, and pond and river fishing has picked up since post ice out. They are getting a new jet boat to help work on the lower Yellowstone River. And let's see, I'll go into parks and outdoor recreation. Makoshka Park visitation is increasing. The visitor center deep cleaning is complete and wildlife exhibits have been updated. And there's also seeing increased spring use occurring at the Tongue River Reservoir State Park, with keen interest on the new cabins that were recently made available. Maintenance crews are working with Parks and Outdoor Recreation staffs to create trails at Medicine Rock State Park to accommodate night sky viewing, which has been increasingly popular. And the crews have cleaned all the lower Yellowstone boat ramp post ice out, and the docks will be installed in South Sandstone here near me this week. And access program staff have been supervising the completion of block management signups, PALA agreements, and elk hunting agreements. And we're preparing and updating with the turkey season. So that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brooke, would you go, please?
Yes. The groups that I met outside went to the Fishing Outfitter and Guides of Montana annual meeting in Bozeman. I met with a group of hunters down in Dillon regarding moose and mule deer population declines and concerns about predators. I met with a group of houndsmen before the lion meeting that the department had in Three Forks, and then I went to the Three Forks lion meeting. There's probably 30 or 40 lion hunters there, along with staff and wardens. In Region 3, they recently completed the hiring process to refill the carnivore specialist position. I don't think it's been announced, but this position will be focused on wolf management and monitoring in both Gallatin and Park counties. Field staff are wrapping up spring mule deer and sage-grouse surveys, and preparations are underway for upcoming mountain grass surveys. Winter elk surveys were completed under generally favorably spring conditions. Strong elk numbers are observed across most of the region. Notably, elk populations have increased in nearly every hunting district compared to last year's counts. In the Madison Valley, pronghorn numbers have also shown growth, with an estimated 200 individuals over last year's count. Deer harvest for the 2024 season has been summarized. Region 3 saw a whitetail deer harvest of 7,645 and a mule deer harvest of 7,702, representing a slight increase for both species compared to 2023. Staff are gathering input for ideas for the upcoming season setting scoping process, which will take place later this summer. In fisheries, Region 3 crews are wrapping up long-term sampling data efforts in the next few weeks. Crews continue to tag fish in the Beaverhead, Big Hole, Ruby, and Madison rivers. We do need anglers to report tagged fish to MSU's reporting page for those efforts to be successful. They will provide abundance estimates in early May, and we'll share those numbers through a press release as soon as possible. The snowpack for much of the region is between 90 and 100% of normal. April and May really set the stage for summer conditions, so it's too early to know how summer is going to shape up. Recreation and maintenance is busy doing spring work, but the main projects are fixing the damage that was sustained from ice jams this winter down out of Ennis, Set Valley Garden, and Ennis fishing access sites. Fish and Wildlife and Parks hosted a block management landowner appreciation dinner in Montana City on March 15th. Oh, I'm sorry, April 15th. And next week, there's going to be a block management landowner appreciation dinner in Livingston. Also, the mountain lion surveys that they were doing the population estimate modeling in regions 2 and 3, and they wrapped that up. They had 167 houndsman days this season and a total of 60 samples from the crew. This includes recaptured individuals, hair samples, and scat samples. They will also provide an analysis harvest samples in the region to see if their sampled lions from any of the sampled lions from the grid were harvested elsewhere. Genetics come back in June, so until then, we don't know how many individuals that equates to. And on a side note, I did go out with the lion population monitoring biologist Ashley Hodge. I spent the night at Wise River, and then we got up the next morning and got on snowmobiles with the houndsmen, and we're able to get some fresh tracks in the snow and treat a mountain lion and watched the work that they're doing for the lion sampling. So that was a pretty interesting day. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Walsh.
You bet. Good morning.
Morning.
First up, there was a bear incident in near Depouiller on Friday on the Rocky Mountain front, and unfortunately, the killing of a female grizzly that had had no history of human conflict in the past and left behind a yearling. Fortunately, the man involved was uninjured, but this is a reminder for the public to be bear aware this time of year. And please always carry bear spray and acquaint yourselves with the basic safety tips, which you can find on the FWP site and at outdoor stores around the state. A big thank you to landowners who opened their ranches and private lands to hunters during hunting season. Region 4 hosted 3 landowner appreciation dinners with 110 landowners attending. Big thank you to all who provide access. Block management areas in Region 4 provided over 80,000 hunter days in 2024. And I think the additional programs the department's developed for hunter access have really been significant over the time that I've served as a commissioner. On the education front, Region 4 will hold a trapper education field date on Saturday, May 12th. Registration opens this week. 50 instructors attended the workshop for hunter, bow hunter, trapper education on April 12th. On the fisheries front, the Smith River float season's now in full swing for those who brave April weather. And snowpack is looking great for the upcoming season at 112% of normal in that drainage. Fisheries staff are busy now with field work, including collecting Eagle Lake strain rainbow eggs from Holter Reservoir. This year's goal is to collect 1.2 million eggs of Holter. The wildlife staff are conducting spring surveys for bighorn sheep, mule deer, sharp-tailed grouse, and sage grouse. And on the lions in Region 4, only 2 lion management unit quotas were met for both sexes in LMU 411 and 413. LMU 422 was closed for male lions prior to season end. And all other quotas remained in the remaining LMUs remained open until the season closed on April 14th. Spring bear and turkey opened on April 15th. A few folks to recognize on enforcement. Wardens Ronenberg and Kraft will graduate from the Montana Law Enforcement Academy later this week. And Ronenberg will go to work in the Stanford district. Warden Kraft will start the field training program. And additionally, Warden Thielen will start at the Montana Law Enforcement Academy next week. So congratulations to all 3. Our 4 wardens coordinated with personnel from Malmstrom Air Force Base to do a cleanup of the Portage Coulee on DNRC land near Great Falls, which was greatly appreciated and a great effort. I had no meetings since our last meeting with outside groups. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Burrows.
Good morning, everyone. I'll start with the groups. I met with Wolves of the Rockies and Sportsmen for Fish Wildlife, and that was in regards to legislation. And I did attend the Foundation for Wildlife Management banquet in Hamilton. On the wildlife side, wildlife staff are working on spring aerial green-up surveys across the region as weather conditions allow. Enforcement. With the nicer spring weather, wardens have been busy checking anglers along rivers and ponds, and they've also been patrolling state parks and fishing access sites with the uptick in visitation with the nicer weather. communication and education, the regional workshop for hunter, bow hunter, trapper education volunteer instructors is coming on April 26th. We have approximately 100 volunteers in attendance from across the region. We'll be recognizing 2 instructors for 45 years of service, so appreciate their work. Region 2 is busy with communications related to vehicle registration ahead of the Blackfoot Clearwater Wildlife Management Area opener for shed hunters. The system will be similar to 2024, which was the first year that the major changes were made. And in general, vehicle access is only through the east entrance at noon, and vehicles must register online ahead of time, April 1st through the 19th for an entry number. Registration numbers are not limited, and those that do not register will not enter behind those that did. And these changes were made in 2024 to address safety concerns with vehicles lining up along the shoulder of Highway 83 several weeks before the opener. Registration is open April 19th, and then entry order will be sent to registrants the last week of the month. On parks and outdoor rec, seasonal staff will be returning late April and early May. Recreation managers are working on hiring and filling open positions. Current recreation staff are focused on cleaning up sites in preparation for the season. Fishing access sites have seen increased visitation with warmer weather, and people are out floating and fishing. The Milltown Overlook project is out to bid. The Milltown Overlook is getting redesigned and relocated on the bluff due to surface crack and safety reasons. The Stevensville Bridge Fishing Access construction project and redesign is slated to break ground midsummer and still waiting on exact dates. On fisheries, field season is underway, and Region 2's begin estimating number of trout in the rivers. In addition, we begin a study looking at survival of brown trout in the upper Clark Fork, where numbers have dropped significantly. Hatchery staff has been planting fish in many area ponds, lakes, and reservoirs, and Region 2 has been out talking to anglers at Browns Lake to gauge angler catch and satisfaction. Browns Lake's a very popular fishery in the Blackfoot. And I think that's the end of report.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Siebel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Region 5 on the wildlife side. Well, first I'll start off. I did not meet with any outside groups since the last meeting. And Region 5 on the wildlife side, like others, of highlights of the spring surveys, sage grouse numbers appear to be doing better, especially in the northern part of Region 5. Southern part appears to be pretty flat, maybe slightly lower to last year. On the green up surveys for deer, the good news is for Region 5, it appears the mule deer numbers are at least in line with last year with some better fawn recruitment. So we're optimistic about that. And definitely whitetail numbers appear to be better this year with good fawn recruitment. Rabbit numbers are lower again this year, and I didn't know that they counted rabbits, but I found out there was a die-off due to hemorrhagic disease in our region, and they use rabbit counts to actually help set bobcat quotas. So something I learned, a little bit of trivia that I learned there. Obviously just like Region 4, grizzly bears are waking up, and we already have a active subadult grizzly bear that's being monitored in Carbon County. And so they're out there, and like Commissioner Walsh or Vice Chair Walsh said, everyone needs to be aware of that. On the fishery side, the survey work is underway or has already been done on the Yellowstone River, the Boulder, Rock Creek, and the Bighorn River. The good news is, they're working on estimates right now, but overall they've seen a lot of nice healthy trout in these streams. So it looks we're optimistic about those numbers on those fisheries this year. The enforcement, like everyone else, has been super busy with the recreation season being in full swing. But Region 5 as well, we have a tremendous amount of investigations that are still happening. Several of the wardens have actually been traveling out of state to follow up on investigations involving multiple animals that were illegally taken over multiple years. And so we had a couple of wardens that were out of state doing that, and another that's going out of state. So I'm happy to see we obviously enforcement's really important, and we need to let people know that even if you're you can run, but you can't hide, and we're gonna find out. On the administrative side, I like this reference. They call it March Madness in Region 5 for when the tags were due for deer and elk. The Region 5 office did a fantastic job, brought in a little extra help, including the game wardens, came in early, worked late answering questions and getting people lined up to get their applications in on time and accurately. So I commend the entire Region 5 staff and for all their great work and for helping everyone out, helping the public out to make sure that they get their tags in on time. On the parks and outdoor rec side, we held 4 landowner appreciation dinners in Region 5. Those were very well attended. And again, like as others have said, we really appreciate the landowners that participate in the block management program. Speaking of block management, those contracts have been printed and mailed out for this year. There obviously are block management areas with bears and spring turkeys that are already open in our region as well. Also, a very important note: the elk hunting access agreement application period is open right now, and will close on May 1st. So again, we've talked about these a lot. I encourage any landowner that wants to take advantage of being able to get tags for their own land to look at that elk access program and to contact your regional office if you're interested, because it's a great opportunity to open up access, but also be able to get tags in return. And also in Region 5, the wildlife management areas, Haymaker, Silver Run, and more importantly, our new big snowy wildlife management area, they will open at noon on May 15th for the season. And other than that, I believe that wraps up my update. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. For Region 6, personally, I did not meet with any groups. I just spoke to individuals. Under wildlife, the spring wildlife surveys are in full swing, and the biologists are flying mule deer grain up surveys now, as well as sage grouse and sharp-tailed grouse surveys. Results from the winter white-tailed deer surveys indicate a 34% increase from 2023 survey, but still 20% below average. White-tailed deer numbers were the lowest in the eastern end of Region 6. Region 6 wildlife team has 2 staff vacancies, which we intend to fill soon. And they are the upland game bird specialist in Plentywood and the Malta area wildlife biologist. Wardens continue to work on the field patrol case investigations across the region. Enforcement staff met with the BLM monument staff in Fort Benton to coordinate the Missouri River floater information packets. Wardens met with the CMR staff for paddlefish season, and the wardens have been assisting regional wildlife staff with sage grouse select counts and landowner FWP meetings on CWD awareness in Turner, Scobie, and Opine. Under Parks and Recreation, the Redwater Fishing Access Site broke ground on construction on the site on April 3rd. The contractor is hoping to have 90% of the new FAS completed by May 15th. Culbertson FAS bid process is complete. Looks like the entire project will be funded to move and build a new parking lot, install barrier rock along the eroded riverbank for safer traffic flow, and new campsites. Brush Lake State Park is planning a 20-year anniversary celebration with a 5K fun run or walk at the park on June 7th to kick off the 2025 season. Working with local businesses for the planning, the fun run and walk, and also working with the Plentywood Schools art class, they're having an art contest to come up with a 20-year anniversary celebration logo for t-shirts to give away to the participants for the fun run. Under the fisheries, Fort Peck Reservoir walleye spawn has begun. The lake and the hatchery crews are currently trapping adult walleye in Fort Peck Reservoir to spawn them for eggs that will be incubated in the Fort Peck hatchery. Once hatched, walleye will be reared in the ponds in the Fort Peck hatchery and then stocked out as both fry and fingerlings into the Fort Peck as well as other Montana waters. Paddlefish season on the Missouri River upstream of Fort Peck Dam will begin May 1st. Region 6 put a harvest quota of 500 fish annually on this population. Paddlefish season on the Missouri River downstream of Fort Peck Dam will begin May 15th. A combined harvest quota of 1,000 fish annually is in place for the lower Missouri and Yellowstone River Region 7. Pallid sturgeon monitoring in the Missouri River downstream of Fort Peck Dam has begun. Fisheries crew will be monitoring the growth, survival, and movements and potential spawning of the endangered species. This work is funded by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Region 6 fisheries and the hatchery system will be stocking fish into the numerous ponds this spring. I don't know about you guys, but well, our weather's a little bit cooler right now, but I'm sure there were several boats on down at the bridge the other day, so it's started. Everybody's trying to get out on these nice days, but multiple hunter and bow hunter education classes, in-person classes are taking place across the region, along with several field days for both hunter and bow hunter ed. Many school outdoor education activities and field trips are being scheduled this spring. In the 7th grade, ice fishing and Fort Peck Hatchery Field Day was highly successful, as well as the subsequent fish dissection and fish math events held at the school. And that wraps up my, well, I guess we did have our block management dinners, and I just want to say that our ranch is 25 years of being in block management this year. So that wraps up my report. And Director Clark, if you would like to do your report, please.
Good morning. Great to see everybody. Oh, it's been busy here at headquarters as we are slowly closing out the legislative session. I have to say it's been a good session for us. The only bills that remain are a handful of study bills that we will probably be informational on, and one marijuana revenue bill, two marijuana revenue bills that are working their way through the process that will change some of the funding, take a little bit away from us and move it into DNRC for water projects. It's looking like that's maybe how that's going to wrap up. That will be sunsetted eventually, but it does give us quite a bit more flexibility in some of those habitat accounts. So the budget will be heard today on the Senate floor, House Bill 2. And thus far, the budget remains mostly intact, although, of course, anything can happen once it hits the floor. I know there are some amendments to reduce some of our funding. The staff has been phenomenal at getting out there and talking to legislators and providing them with white papers and really lobbying on our behalf. So I could not be more proud of this staff. The last wolf bill passed a quiet death. Well, I don't know how quiet it was last Friday on the floor. So we are grateful for that. Those would have been challenging, particularly the last one, Representative Fielder's bill would have been, I think, very challenging for the commission. So again, hard work by the staff. We continue to have constituency meetings. We wrapped up our last one on Tuesday. And so we probably won't have any more constituency meetings. However, they have requested that we continue to have them even post-session. And so Eric is sending out a survey to see if they would like to continue those via Zoom or maybe right before interim committee meetings. We'll just see however that shakes out. In other legislative news, the Parks Board passed out unanimously out of the Senate committee, and believe it will be on the floor probably tomorrow. My confirmation was also passed out of committee unanimously and will probably be on the full Senate floor for a vote tomorrow. And thank you everybody that showed up, Chair Robbins, especially for your testimony. It was very helpful. There was a lot of proponents and certainly grateful for that. As far as activities go, I had the opportunity to be in Billings for the birth of a grandchild. So I was able to visit the regional office there and spend some time with Mike Ruggles and crew. And thank you all for taking the time out of your busy days to show me around and spend some time sharing what you do with me. Last Saturday, we went up to the Flathead. It was Marina, Garrett, myself, and Mike Freeman from the governor's office. We did a ribbon cutting for Reed Slough, which is a wildlife viewing area outside of Big Fork. It was a great event. It was well attended. And it's going to be a really nice addition to what they already do. Very education focused. They'll have they have bus parking. So that'll be great too. Also attended the landowner appreciation dinner on the 15th at Montana City with the governor, and very well attended, 85 participants there, and great donations and prizes. It's very much appreciate the folks that make donations to that. And I think that's it for, did I miss anything?
So
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the agenda, it has the introduction of Renee Lemon, but I think I'll wait until we're to her portion of the agenda, and then I'll let you introduce yourself if that works. Okay, so the next thing, I was watching a legislative hearing, and the staff did kind of an overview for that hearing. And so I asked the staff if they would do a presentation for us today. It shouldn't take a lot of time, but it's very informational, and I think it will be very helpful down the road when we're making our decisions. So Emily, are you going to kick that off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My camera seems to be a little stuck, so I'm going to turn it off.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Emily Cooper. I'm the Licensing Bureau Chief. Thank you for asking us to give this presentation today. I brought some of my staff with me. Go ahead, guys.
Hi, I'm Robin Barch. I'm the Licensing Operations Manager.
Okay.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Peyton Child, Licensing Business Analyst.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Guys, you might recognize Peyton's face and his voice. He's done a couple really helpful videos that are online on our website that help walk you through the drawing application process. So what we're going to talk about today is hunting license trends in Montana. This is a presentation, like the chair said, we have given to the legislative body for a couple years in a row. We've given it to the Sportsman's Caucus, Montana Outfitters and Guides Association. This particular presentation focuses mostly on hunting, but it does have a little bit of other information in it as well. So how we like to do this, hopefully, Commissioner and all you commissioners have a copy of this presentation. There are numbers at the bottom of the slide you see here. If you have a question, that will be easier to reference as we go back. So as we start here, we're going to talk about adjusting license and permit numbers. So population management and FWP's management tools. We have a couple population goals to manage population size, age structure, and male to female ratio. We use a couple of tools to do that. Number of hunters, method of harvest, season length and timing, bag limits, and access. We have two tools to do that, or two options to do that, excuse me. A licenses, which are antlered or either sex. We use these to target antlered animals. Manage the population age structure of the male to female ratio. These licenses don't significantly affect the population trajectory unless the population is substantially under objective. The second option is B licenses. These are our antlerless ones. We use these to manage population trends. So we'll start with just real basic bottom of the line stuff, licensing overview for here. We have a license versus a permit. A license provides the opportunity for a license holder to harvest and possess the carcass of an animal, while a permit is used in conjunction with that license. It cannot be used by itself. It's not its own opportunity, and it expands or restricts the license opportunity. Here's some non-resident deer and elk licenses. For residents, we have an A license, general deer and general elk license. These are sold over the counter. There's no quota that's set. Any resident that qualifies can get one. B licenses, some deer and elk B licenses are limited to quota. Others are available without a quota. On the non-resident side, A licenses are limited by statutory quotas and allocated through a drawing only. These are those non-resident combination licenses people talk about. For B licenses, some deer B and elk B are limited by quota. Others are available without a quota. And since B licenses mostly go through a drawing, they're limited to a maximum of 10% of that license quota. So these are the different types of statutorily limited non-resident licenses. When we talk about the 17,000, that's the bucket that is both big game and elk combination licenses. Those come out of the same quota of 17,000. Deer combination quota, that base quota is 4,600 set in statute. And then there's another one that's a landowner sponsored deer combination. Come home to hunt licenses are for those non-residents that once lived in Montana and held a resident license. Those are set in statute as well at a quota of 500. Non-resident deer combination licenses. These get a little complicated, get a little bit bigger as we go through the drawing. The base quota for that deer combination license, like I said before, was 4,600. However, during the drawing itself, additional deer licenses are added to that base quota through the following scenarios. Landowner sponsored deer combination. These are unclaimed landowner sponsored deer licenses added to the deer license combination quota. And then elk combinations, I'll give you some examples later in a couple slides on how this would work. The elk combination, for each elk combination license holder, an unclaimed deer license is separated from a big game and added to that quota. So I'll kind of show you how this works. This is brand new, fresh information from Tuesday's drawing. So this is real live information. So on Tuesday, we had 17,000 big game and elk combination licenses available. Once the drawing was completed and it shook out, these are the final numbers. 12,222 of that 17,000 were big game combination, and 4,778 were just general elk combinations, which means that out of that bucket, we had the exact number of what we call orphan deer licenses. Those deer combination licenses are repackaged and put back into the drawing. When I said that 4,600 changes, so that 46, we just added 4,778 because those are available from that deer combination or that elk combination license. We had 937 of the available 2,000 landowner sponsored deer combination licenses. So we had 1,063 unclaimed licenses. Those are also added to that 4,600 base deer combination license. So when we got down through the drawing, when we started the deer combination license drawing, later on Tuesday's drawing, we started out with that 4,600 base. We added the 1,063 unclaimed landowner sponsor, plus the 4,778 orphan deer combo. So we gave out 10,441 general deer combination licenses during the drawing on Tuesday. Non-residents have some very specific restrictions set in statute. 872506 restricts big game license permits available to non-residents to no more than 10% of those available licenses and permits. So example, if we had 100 permits available, the non-residents can claim up to a maximum of 10 of those. In administrative rule, it says that residents receive 90% of those hunting licenses and permits. However, when the number of residents is less than 90%, all residents have received their license, that non-residents can get more of that 10%, but only if residents have received them, all the ones that they asked for. So that gets a little bit complicated. So we did just a couple of examples to kind of show you how that 10% non-resident restriction would work. For this example, the quota is 100. There were 150 applicants, so it was oversubscribed. We had 120 residents and 30 non-residents. So when we did the drawing, it shook out to, the residents got 93% and non-residents got 7%. So they were limited 10% of that drawing. In another example, this one has a quota of 50. So in the magic math of this example, there are exactly 50 applicants. All the residents got one. There were only 30 of those, so they had a 60%. So since all the residents got a license, the non-resident licenses available is more than 10%. That is because all the residents got one, which made the quota go up for the non-resident restriction. So in the third example, this one has a quota of 150, and there were less applicants than permits available. So in this particular instance, there were 100 applicants. We went through the drawing. They all got one. All the residents and non-residents got one. So 50 of those licenses are what we call the surplus licenses. They go back to be on sale through a surplus license opportunity. And those are not restricted by the 90-10 split on residency restrictions because they've already met that requirement in the primary drawing, and now they're being sold over the counter. So there are some other non-resident license opportunities. For deer and elk, there is a non-resident relative of a resident license. These are folks that were born in Montana or to parents that lived in Montana when they were born. So this is a half price license also. College student licenses and youth licenses. None of these are restricted by statute. Bird licenses, upland game bird, migrant bird, turkey, they're also available to non-residents. There are bighorn sheep opportunities that have 5 unlimited opportunities, so those are not restricted by residency either. Black bear, mountain lion, and wolves are also not restricted by resident and non-residents. There are a couple pretty big changes to licenses that happened in statute. I-161 back in 2010, that got rid of the outfitter-sponsored licenses. Those were variable price licenses, and they had they were restricted for non-resident license holders, and you could only hunt with an outfitter on lands in that outfitter's operation plan. Then House Bill 140, this was in the 2015 legislative session. This created the base hunting license, standardized license fees and discounts, and reduced the number of free licenses. Senate Bill 281 in the 2023 legislative session, it limited the number of Deer B licenses available to non-residents. Before 2023, non-residents could buy 7 deer licenses just like we could, but after this piece of legislation passed, 2 were available to non-residents who hold a combination, and if you don't hold a combination license, you can only get 1 Deer B license. The commission took some action last year in 2024 that had some significant impacts as well. Region 6 and 7, along with a couple districts in 4, mule deer does were only valid on private land. First and only license and permit opportunities were no longer offered as surplus. So if you wanted that license, you need to apply and go through the drawing, and it will be assigned to you. We don't sell those over the counter. Either sex brow tine bull elk permits were limited the holder to hunting antlered elk strictly within that permitted area. So we're going to talk really quick about resident versus non-resident prices. For residents, a sportsman combination without bear, $62. The same opportunity is offered to a non-resident are $1,278. Deer B licenses for residents are $10 versus $75 for a non-resident, and elk B are $20 versus $270 for a non-resident. So pretty significant difference between the two. This slide shows you total hunting license revenue. This includes hunting licenses of all types. You can see that non-residents bring in 75.6% of the revenue for hunting, and residents at 24.4%. This next slide is just specific to deer and elk licenses, and this one is a little bit bigger on the non-resident side. Almost 80% of the revenue for deer and elk license sales come from non-residents, and just 20% from residents. So the next part we're going to cover are hunting license sales, and I'm going to hand it over to Peyton, and he's going to walk you through some sale information.
All right, so on this slide, you're looking at our total issued hunting license sales. This includes any hunting licenses that we issue. Anything you see in blue is going to be our resident sales, and in orange is non-resident. You'll notice a gradual non-resident increase here since 2014, and a notable resident jump in 2020, as well as a notable non-resident jump in 2020 and 2021. These are our general deer license sales. Again, you'll see that resident jump in 2020. Non-residents have been pretty steady since 2014 due to those statutory quotas. There is a little bit of variation due to just the variation in our drawings and some various special programs we have. These are our general elk license sales. This one's going to look pretty similar. Again, the resident jump in 2020. And then the statutory quotas for non-residents keeps that pretty stable throughout, with a little bit of variation here and there. These are our Deer B license sales. Some of these are available over the counter. Some of them go through our drawing. You'll see that decrease since 2020 due to reduced quotas in the drawings. And we expect to see a sharp non-resident decrease in future years due to Senate Bill 281. These are our elk B license sales. Again, some of these are available over the counter. Some of them are through the drawing. Non-resident numbers are up since 2014, but pretty stable. Again, you'll see that slow gradual increase for non-residents since 2014. These are our season upland bird license sales. It's been a pretty steady resident increase since 2019 there. Pretty stable throughout for non-residents. It's important to note with these are included in those non-resident combination licenses as well as sportsman combos. So it can be difficult to determine how many of these are actually being used or just bought in a combo.
All right, so we talked about license sales and revenue. Now we're going to talk about where they're hunting and how long. So this is statewide deer hunter numbers that we get from our hunter survey. So we do see a decline in residents over the past 2 years, but we do see a little bit of an increase in non-residents. These are statewide active elk hunter numbers. We see again the decrease in resident and an increase in non-residents. Now we're going to talk about hunter location in days. So this is just a map of our state broken up into the 7 districts, the 7 hunting regions. So this is deer hunter distribution by region. This survey is typically done every other year, so that's why these numbers are a little bit behind. So we do see a decrease in region 1 and region 5, but we do see an increase in region 3 and region 6. Elk hunter distribution by region. We do see a decrease in region 1 and region 2, but we see an increase in region 3 and region 5. This is just a summary of the previous 2 slides of our greatest increases and decreases for deer and elk. So we talked about region. Now we're going to talk about statewide deer hunting numbers. So we do see an increase in residents and we do see an increase in non-residents. So what that means is both residents and non-residents are spending more time in the field looking for their deer. So statewide elk hunting numbers, we do see an increase in residents and non-residents. Again, that means more residents and non-residents are spending more time in the field looking for their elk. So this is now specifically deer hunter days broken up into regions. So we do see an increase in region 6 and region 7 for the non-residents. However, residents are remaining stable. This is elk hunter days by region. No major changes here, remaining stable, but we do see an increase in region 3. This is just a summary of the previous 2 slides of our greatest increases and decreases for deer and elk. Now we're going to talk about hunting access. Block management is one of our widely recognized access programs here at Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. So this is our enrollment. So we do see enrollment has declined by 10.5% since 2013, but we also do see that hunter days have increased by 56%. It is notable to mention on the right-hand side that we have lost a little bit less than 500,000 acres in Region 7, but our greatest loss of 30% acreage in Region 2. This is our block management acreage by region. We do see that the majority of our block management acreage is in Region 6 and in Region 7. So this is block management residency of hunter days by region. So we do see that non-residents make up 49% of the hunters in Region 6 and 39% of the hunters in Region 7. It is important to mention that residents still make up the majority of block management hunters across the state, but we do see a heavier non-resident focus in Region 6 and Region 7.
All right, so this is just a summary of some notable trends that we've seen since the last time this presentation was given a couple of years ago. So number 1, overall resident license sales were nearly identical in 2022 and 23. Non-resident license sales have slightly increased since 2022. Non-resident license revenue decreased in 22, but hit a new high in 23, remains on an upward trajectory. Resident upland bird license sales have increased since 2022 and remain on an upward trajectory. Non-resident sales are remaining steady. Resident general deer and elk license sales have slightly increased since 2022. And deer B license sales have decreased for both residents and non-residents since 2022. Both remain on that downward trajectory.
Just an overall summary of the trends. We do see that resident and non-resident license sales have both increased since 2014. We do see that resident hunters have decreased and non-residents have increased since 2013. We do see a shift in hunter efforts from the west side of the state to the east side of the state. We also do see that hunters are spending more time in the field looking for their game. We also do note that private land open to hunting access has decreased over time.
So lastly, what do we expect to see in the future? We expect that non-resident license revenue continues to increase due to that statutory CPI price increase and stable demand for non-resident combination licenses, as well as statutory price increase for migratory bird licenses. Back in 2023, that was House Bill 217. We were oversubscribed this year. I can tell you just a quick number. We have about 23,000 licenses available. We had 46,000 applicants for those buckets of non-resident combination licenses. We also expect that deer B license sales will continue to decrease, particularly from non-residents due to the passage of Senate Bill 281 from the 23 session. We only have 1 year's worth of data on that because it didn't actually happen until 2024. Typically, licensing legislation is postponed until the next license year. So we expect to see a decrease in 2025 and for years forward as well. That is the end of our presentation. We are happy to answer any questions from any commissioner or discuss. So we'd like to open it up. What do we got?
Okay. Are there any questions? Eric did email that to us, so you should have that in your email now. I just thought that this was really very good information for us to know. And so Commissioner Siebel, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for the presentation. I think I could spend half a day asking questions about all that data, but just a couple. A real simple one here is on the non-resident drawings, Emily. When you talk about 10% quota on a special permit, if there's 100 tags, are 10 of those set aside? If it's oversubscribed, are 10 of those set aside and the drawing is done separately, or is it all in one? Is everyone in one hopper? And once you get to 10% non-residents, you stop. I guess I'm curious how that all works as far as the actual process of the drawing with regards to non-residents and how that 10% is accounted for. If it's separated in separate drawings or it's all one big drawing and then allocated that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Sewell, Madam Chair. I'm going to have Peyton answer that question. Peyton Shiles is the one that does our drawings for us, and nobody knows this better than he does. So Peyton, can you?
Absolutely. Yeah, so they're all issued in one big drawing. It's important to note that the 10% isn't guaranteed. It's up to 10%. So it's just whatever the drawing shakes out randomly. It could be, if the 10% comes out to 10 licenses, it could be 6 or 7 issued to non-residents. It's not always that 10.
Got it. Thank you. One follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Another question I had was, if a non-resident puts in for the general combo license and also applies for a special permit and does not receive a special permit, they were going to hunt in a particular area, and what happens if they did draw that general license? What's the procedure there?
Go ahead, Peyton.
Oh, Madam Chair, Commissioner, if they don't draw that general license, they're just not entered into the special permit drawing.
Follow up, I guess to clarify that, aren't the drawings at the same time for the special permit and for the general?
They are in the same day, but the combo drawing occurs first and then the permit drawing is after.
Okay, so if they get the combo but they don't get the permit, if they're hunting with an outfitter, for example, can they give up their general license?
Yes, they can choose to return that for an 80% refund if they don't get the special permit.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Burrows.
Yeah, I think I like Commissioner Siebel. We could probably talk about this all day because there's a lot of questions, a lot of info on there. Some of the like, if I could boil it down to maybe 3, first is I've heard and I continue to hear that the non-resident big game combos are set in statute. And when I researched that, and I've asked this question a couple times, it looks like the cap or the ceiling tags are set in statute in 87.2505, but actually limiting the numbers is under commission purview as well, under their authorities. It looks like we could do that through rulemaking, and there's some qualifying criteria to do that. But is it true that the commission could actually set the number of non-resident big game combo licenses?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Burrows, that's probably a legal question for our legal counsel and the commission's legal counsel. That statutory quota is set in that MCA that you quoted. Anything outside of that, I believe, is a legal question. Commissioner
So,
Burrows.
and we probably don't need to answer that today, but if you guys could get the answer to that for us, please.
Yeah, I think it would be a good answer because I've heard unequivocally, like a handful of times, that non-resident big game combo licenses are set by the legislature. And in my dabbling through statute, it looks like the commission may have some authority. So if we could get the answer to that. Next is and maybe this isn't a direct question for licensing, but I'm curious as to why when I look at a lot of the other states, I don't see deer and elk combination licenses sold. They break those out. And I guess I'm wondering why we combine deer and elk. And that's another thing it looks like the commission has the authority to do, is to separate deer licenses from elk licenses for the big game combo. And it just seems like maybe a potential increase in revenue, especially with those, because what it looks like, anybody who orphans a deer tag is willing to pay that $1,270 some dollars, basically just for the elk tag if they orphan the deer tag. If that's correct or not, I'm not sure. But then we additionally sell the deer tag. So I'm wondering if we could generate more revenue by separating those deer and elk tag and not do a combination license. Again, maybe not a question that can be answered now, but maybe something for us to think about, because in my reading, it looks like the commission may be able to do that as well. And I don't know if there's been a economic analysis done or a biological analysis of what that would look like to decouple non-resident deer licenses from the elk licenses in that combo.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Brooks, we do have a big game combination that has a deer and elk license. We have an elk combination, which is an elk only license, and we have a deer combination, which is a deer only license. So those are already separated out into their own fees. You did see the $1,278 for the big game combo, $1,078 for the elk combo, and $744 for the deer combo. So all of those that get orphaned from the elk combo, those are separated out into an elk combination only license.
So I asked them to do this. Well, our agenda is pretty short, so I asked them to do it today, but also this is way ahead of the time of when we need to make decisions, and this will give us plenty of time to visit with I guess I'm going to ask Eric to make sure that we have, Emily, Peyton, and Robin's contact information also emailed to us. So we don't have to answer everything today, but this gives us lots of time to think about stuff and get some clarification.
I ask these just because we do have season setting coming up. And I think these are fundamental questions that there may be some misunderstanding to as to both our authority and actually, because I spent some time with Emily, and I'll admit my commission P brain could barely keep up with everything she would like. There's so much information she was given that it's information overload to understand. And lastly, I guess it's a following up on that. And my last question / comment would be understanding the dynamics and the numbers on our non-resident versus resident licenses sold, and then hunter days in the field and number of hunters, because I don't know about all the rest of the commission, but the number one thing I hear when I talk to constituents, go to meetings, is non-resident pressure is just overwhelming. It's inundating our hunting spots. We're harvesting too many out. That is bar none, like the number one thing that I hear when I'm out and about. And so I talked to Emily a little bit to understand, and it's kind of, I guess, a little bit deceiving in the numbers, because when you look at licenses sold, and I was trying to make notes while they were scrolling through the slides really quick, but it looked like the number of non-resident to resident ratio was about 8-to-1 resident to non-resident. But then when you start looking at like hunters and hunter days, that number gets skewed more heavily towards the it's more like a 4-to-1 or 3.5-to-1, which I guess you could interpret that data as there's a lot of resident tags being sold, but maybe those residents aren't necessarily hunting, which is why the licenses sold don't necessarily correlate to what people are seeing on the ground, which is every corner's got like a non-resident hunter on it. All I see is Washington, Oregon, Idaho plates. So that's kind of some interesting data maybe for us to look at, that licenses sold maybe don't necessarily correlate to what's actually happening on the ground, which is 8-to-1. And then it looks like about half of that, it's more like a 4-to-1 ratio of residents to non-residents actually out on the ground or spending time on the ground. So I'll be quiet now because I've talked long enough.
No, thank you for your questions. I just don't think that we can cover everything today. And so can I have a reminder of when season set, which meeting are we going to discuss season settings?
Madam Chair, this is Brian Wakeling. We will bring biennial season setting for final action to the commission in December of this year.
Okay. So we
Madam
got
Chair?
lots of time. Yes,
Oh.
Commissioner Siebel.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I just had a follow-up, and it's something that Emily brought up in her slides, talking about some of the previous commission actions. So I want to put this forward as a challenge to Emily and her team and to the department for our season setting process. We made some specific changes regarding, first and only choice. She mentioned, as I mentioned in her slide 16, we made that change as a commission. And also set no more surplus. So they had several areas where you can only put in for that one. We also did the area where if you drew a special tag for that area, that you could only hunt that area for elk, and I believe that's the same for deer. One of the questions I've been getting a lot of, and I've had myself, is whether or not that's working. The whole point of that, the whole point of us doing that was to try to help with overcrowding and help get hunters spread out and say, hey, pick your area, stay in your area, hunt your area. And common sense says it probably helped, but I would sure like to know if the changes that we made, if there's a way to measure it. I don't know what it is, and that's a challenge for the department. How do we measure those impacts of the changes that the commission's made? Has it been positive? Has it been negative? And so I would challenge the department if we can figure out a way to do that, because that's something we need to, when we make changes like that, we definitely want to visit what the impacts are. So I'll just throw that one out and lower my hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I guess, we're several months away from season setting. There's going to be lots of public meetings, but I just wanted you guys to have this information so that we can work throughout the year to get questions answered and when we move into when we have to make the decision. So thank you, Emily and Peyton and Robin. I really appreciate you doing this.
Very helpful.
All right. The next thing on our agenda is the logo design, and it's just going to be consensus. If you guys have had a chance to look at it, anyone have any objections to the design for the commission, or any discussion at all?
Madam Chair, I was always surprised we didn't have any kind of predator in the logo.
Is there any objection to the design? Commissioner Brooke, I see you unmuted.
I just think that the predator is the eagle.
Oh, sure, that's true.
He's got a fish.
Good point. I missed that. Thank you, Commissioner Brooke.
You're welcome. Are we going to get coats with this? What are we going to use this logo for?
I don't know. What we just have never had a logo. We're not really allowed to have the FWP logo because we are separate from the FWP. So this is just something that if we do, I know in the past commissioners have asked for like a shirt or something that we could wear to a meeting if we went to a public meeting. And we couldn't have the FWP logo because we are separate entities. And so this is just moving forward with having an identity, I guess, for the commission, and we'll see what we don't have plans, I guess, for where it will be used or what it will be used for.
Maybe some fishing vests with Sims fishing vests with that on there would be nice.
I can help.
Possibilities are endless.
Right.
So, any objection, I guess, to the logo? All right, so it looks like we have a consensus on the logo. Thank you, Eric. And I think it was Eric and Greg that put it together. So thank you so much for the work on that. I appreciate that getting done. All right, now we're going to move into the action items. Fisheries, we start out with Adam, if you would like to present.
Yes, good morning, Chair Robinson, members of the commission. Getting used to saying commission instead of committee here. So today's fisheries request is to add the Elk Creek Fish Removal Project to the Fisheries Division current approved list of fish removal projects. The project is a continuation of FWP's goals to expand native species populations on the landscape. Specifically, this project benefits West Slope cutthroat trout population expansion in an important stream in the Madison Valley in FWP Region 3. Some background here is the statewide fisheries management plan guides fisheries management across the state. The plan is very prescriptive and covers everything we do. One of those important aspects is what we refer to as fish removal projects. Typically, these projects involve removing unwanted species to benefit native species like West Slope cutthroat trout, bull trout, etc. The current list of fish removal projects can be found in Appendix A of the management plan. When a new project presents itself like this one, we come to the commission for approval to add a project to the list. That is the intent of today's request. Okay. This project was out for public comment via commission and environmental assessment or EA processes. The commission process received 2 comments in support and 1 question, while the EA process received 1 comment in support. So thank you for considering our ask today to add this important native species tool to our toolbox. I'm available for any questions, and FWP Region 3 Fisheries Manager Mike Duncan, I believe, is online and is also available. So thank you, and any questions?
All right, thank you, Commissioner Walsh.
Yeah, Mr. Stringer, I just had 1 question. I support this effort, but I'm just curious what the blockage or containment is for the WCT that you're going to plant there.
Yes, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Walsh. So there's a barrier in place in the drainage, and this is basically in place to prevent any unwanted entrance of non-natives, basically within the system upstream of the barrier. And so in essence, if you think about it, we're going to remove all non-natives upstream of the barrier and really will expand the population in the drainage.
1 follow-up.
Sure, go ahead.
We had a question from the public about the impact. I think it's rotenone that you're probably using, but the impact of whatever material you're going to use to kill the non-native fish on invertebrates and other life forms in the river. Maybe you can just comment on that.
Yes, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Walsh. Yeah, thank you for that. So in essence, rotenone is lethal to all species in the drainage. In a lot of cases, what the agency does to ensure that those species remain on the landscape in that drainage, or if there are other native species, let's use sculpin as an example. I know crews in Region 3 in particular do go into the drainage in advance of the project and remove species like sculpin from the treatment area, put them below the barrier, and then once the project is completed and we want to get the natives back in there, we'll take those fish back in and put them above the barrier. So we do take into account impacts to other species, maybe not in every single instance, but in most instances across the state.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
Madam Chair?
Yep, Commissioner Brooke.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the Elk Creek Fish Removal Project in the Madison Valley be added to the current approved list of fish removal projects.
I second.
Okay, Thank you, Commissioner Walsh. All right. I will, I know that there is someone in the Helena office that would like to comment on, if you would like to go ahead. Just a reminder, 2-minute time limit on the comments.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm Jeff Lucas, spelled Lukas with Trout Unlimited. TU supports the commission adopting the Elk Creek Fish Removal Project and adding it to the current approved list of fish removal projects. TU is in favor of fish removal projects that are aimed towards native fish recovery, as this proposed project does for West Slope cutthroat trout. Piece by piece, these recovery projects provide more connectivity for West Slope cutthroat trout, and we applaud FWP's efforts to expand their range. So thank you for your time and the opportunity to comment, and we urge you to pass.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I don't see any cameras getting turned on in any of the regional offices. Is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak? Okay, I do not see any hands raised for the attendees. If there is anyone who would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair, I have no raised hands online.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, with no further comments, if there are no questions or comments from the commission, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Adam. All right, we'll move on to the Wildlife Division. So Brian Wakeling, I think you're gonna take the first.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Brian Wakeling, Game Management Bureau Chief. The first topic we have before you this morning is essentially it's a little bit of a two-pronged request. The first is the adoption of the 2025-2026 migratory bird regulations that covers cranes, snipe, doves, ducks, geese, swans, and coots, and it involves all methods of hunting, including falconry. The other request is a authorization of what's known as the zones and splits for the two flyways, the Central and the Pacific Flyway that occur within Montana. So both of these, migratory game bird hunting is unique amongst a lot of our hunting in that it's governed by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and it also has a federal influence over which it somewhat limits the department's discretion and the commission's authority with some of the regulation setting. So they establish what's known as federal frameworks, and the commission has the authority within those frameworks to be more conservative with bag limits, more conservative with season dates. And also, each flyway has a maximum number of zones that can be established. And with each zone, they can be split into multiple segments if so choose. And so that comes before the commission once every 5 years. Once those are established, then they remain in place for a period of 5 years. So the season that we are recommending are for 1 year for the next calendar year, 2025-2026. But the zones and splits will not take effect after the commission acts today. It has to go before the Service Regulatory Committee, and they make their final determinations. That'll be next fall. However, that doesn't take effect until the following year. But this is the window that we have in order for the commission to take an action on those. So we've got two requests before you, and I'm going to go ahead and elaborate a little bit on the seasons first, and then I'll come back and talk about the zones and splits. So essentially, and there's a lot of standard dates and seasons and what have you within here, I'm not going to go into detail on those unless you have specific questions, but I do want to highlight some of the changes that we are bringing before you. And all of these recommendations are based upon, in part upon, a survey that we conducted this past year to try to get some insight into, hunter desires. It seems like waterfowl hunters can be some of the most challenging. We have approximately a little over 10,000 names on file who had purchased upland game bird, migratory game bird seasons this last year. We sent a survey to all of them. We wound up receiving about a 20% response rate, which really isn't too bad. That's a pretty good response rate for us, and we based a lot of our recommendations to the commission on that. We've also got biological information that we use every year, and of course some of that is also what influences our recommendations. So one of the recommendations we're making is to increase the pintail daily bag limit. This is something that the federal frameworks allowed this year, and so we want to be able to increase that to 3 birds daily bag, and that's consistent with the federal frameworks. We've also seen sandhill cranes within Region 3 and Region 4 improving, and so we wanted to provide some increased opportunity there. It's kind of a modest increase, but most of those areas tend to be somewhat limited in how you can distribute hunters. And so in one case, we increased the number of permits that an individual could have from 1 to 2. That's in Region 3, and also increased the number. And we also increased the number within Region 4. We're also recommending a change to the existing Zone 2 in the Central Flyway. So to make that clear, I mean, it seems like this could be one of the most complex recommendations under the sun, but to try to make that as clear as possible, that's an existing zone, and so we can change the dates. If we change those dates, that will take effect for this coming year. And then finally, when we start to speak about the actual zones and splits themselves, we're recommending that the number of zones and splits remain the same within the Pacific Flyway, no split. Within the Central Flyway, retaining 2 zones, but Zone 2, we're recommending that 2, and you have a map within your packet that shows we're recommending 2 counties be moved from Zone 1 into Zone 2. Those counties being Sweetgrass and Stillwater. We're recommending those be shifted, and so those would be governed by the season dates that are adopted for Zone 2. Again, that would not take effect for this year, but it would take effect for the 5 years following. That essentially covers the specifics, the changes we're recommending. There's a lot more detail in there. I also want to point out that Faye McNew is our waterfowl biologist. She is on the call as well, and so she's available if there's any specific questions that I'm unable to answer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? I know that we do have an amendment that is being proposed, but as usual, I'd like to have like the main motion first, and then we'll talk about the amendment. And then we'll vote on the amendment, and then what goes out to public for comment will be either amended or the original motion.
Madam Chair, I move the Fish Wildlife Commission approve the 25-26 migratory game bird seasons, except for those influenced by routine calendar rotations and approved by Pacific and Central Flyway zones, and splits for waterfowl hunting during 2026 through 2030 as presented by the department.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Lane seconded. Okay, Could we get the amendment pulled up on the screen, please? Okay. Commissioner Siebel, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'll make the motion for the amendment. I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the following amendment to the proposed 2025-2026 migratory bird regulations. And that's change the proposed late season dates in Zone 2 of the Central Flyway for 2025 to 26 for ducks and coots, October 4th, 25 to October 12th, 25, and October 25th, 25 to January 2026. For geese, October 4, 25 to October 12, 25, and October 25 of 2025 to January 28th of 2026. No change to the youth seasons proposed. And then falconry ducks and coots. This was incorrect in the original amendment that I put forward, but the correct date is September 24th, 2025 to October 12th, 25, and October 25, 25 to January 2026. And falconry geese, October 4, 25 to October 12, 25, and October 25, 25 to January 28th, 26.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Lane, thank you for the second.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
yes, go ahead.
Just a little bit of explanation. I wrote it last year in Zone 2 of the Central Flyway. We moved the season a week later, and did that for all the reasons that were brought up in public comment. Later, it seems like migrations are getting later, and so that we wanted to have more opportunities for hunters to have access or get access to later migrating waterfowl, ducks, especially ducks.
Okay, hold on, Commissioner Siebel. Could you please put that back up there for the public so that they can see it while we're discussing it, please? Sorry about that. Okay, go ahead.
All right, no problem. So last year, I made an amendment, or we passed my amendment last year to Zone 2 of the Central Flyway to essentially from what I call the traditional season dates, move it back 1 week or move it 1 week later for all the reasons that were cited in public comment. And I appreciate the public comment, the public participation in the survey. A couple things alarmed me as a commissioner. One was the die-off that was reported on the Bighorn River. That was reported, I believe, at our last full commission meeting. And talking both to Brian and to Faye and to Matt in Region 5, trying to find out what the cause was. It sounds like it was not, and please correct me, Department, it was not avian influenza, but it did appear that there was a lot of the birds were emaciated and had issues, of lack of feed. And remember, this was a die-off of waterfowl along the Bighorn River, which is in Zone 2 Central Flyway, and that and not knowing the cause of that, and I guess my assumption that late hunting and additional pressure could, but may not have been the reason for that, but could have added to the pressure on the ducks that late in the season, especially in an area that did see an intense amount of hunting pressure because it is one of the few bits of open water that's left in the state that late in January. And again, I'm talking about the Bighorn River. So it was the reason I put this amendment forward was last year the change to move it a week later was done, for the same reason. And it's my recommendation with this amendment that we maintain that change from last year and get at least another year, if not more, to evaluate, the potential impacts of having that later season in that area, which again does concentrate hunters onto the open water. And so that's what brought the amendment forward, was really that just abundance of caution and a cautious approach to making sure that we're, obviously we're taking care of the species, especially the ducks in Zone 2 of the Central Flyway. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, do you want to speak to the amendment at all?
Madam Chair, the one thing I would point out, that I think this is a conservative approach and a prudent approach to doing so. Because of the amendment, the way the Commissioner Siebel made the amendment, we have not reduced the number of days that hunters can participate in that zone. It would just simply move those season dates a little bit earlier, so the likelihood of affecting the biology of the species as it gets later into the winter is modified somewhat. But the season dates, the hunter opportunity, the length is still the same. It's just when the dates occur.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay. All right. is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to comment?
Madam Chair, were we
Yes.
going to vote on the amendment first and
Oh,
then go
yes,
out for
sorry.
public comment?
Thanks for keeping me straight. Yeah, okay, we're gonna vote on the amendment before I go out to public comment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. So, thank you, Commissioner Siebel. What I am asking for comments on is the amended original motion, which is still on the screen. If anybody wants to we want to keep that up on the screen until we're done with this issue. So again, anybody in the regional offices or in Helena who would like to speak? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. If there's anyone online, okay, I do. Okay, Neil Cody, if you would like to go, please. Okay, Eric, is he muted? Oh, yes, you're muted. So if you could unmute, please.
Perhaps, Madam Chair, you could say his name one more time so he knows.
Okay, sure. Neil Cody, if you would like to speak, please, you need to unmute. Eric, do you have to unmute him or do they unmute themselves?
I've sent the request a couple of times for him to unmute. That's all I can do from here, Madam Chair.
Okay. Should be a little box that you have to hit that says unmute before we can hear you. Okay. We'll try it one more time, Mr. Cody, if you can unmute. If not, we won't be able to hear your comments. No luck. Okay. Oops, he's trying. I can see there was some, you're still muted though. Okay, one more try. All right, he's the only one that has his hand raised. And we seem to have some technical difficulties for him to unmute, so he has lowered his hand. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. McDonald, if you would go ahead with the Ear Mountain grazing lease renewal, please.
Sure, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Ken McDonald, I'm the Chief of Wildlife Division with Fish, Wildlife and Parks. This item is a 6-year renewal of a grazing lease on the Ear Mountain Wildlife Management Area with the Salmon Ranch, the adjoining landowner. Specifically, this grazing lease would be on 2,120 acres of the WMA known as the South Pasture. Our pasture, that South Pasture, would be incorporated into a 3-pasture rest rotation grazing system with the Salmon Ranch. And ours would be grazed once early in the season, the next year late in the season, and then rested on the 3rd year. The grazing would be up to 391 AUMs, and payment for that grazing would be according to the National Agriculture Statistics rate that's set every year. One additional component of this is the landowner would offer a degree of free public hunting on their ranch as a component of this grazing lease. So again, this is just a continuation of an ongoing lease that's been in place for many years. It works really well for the agency and it works well for the landowner. So we're recommending you approve it for another 6 years.
All right. Commissioner Siebel.
Madam Chair, just one quick question for Ken. Can you say what it looks like the rate had just ended. Can you say what the rate per AUM is for the initial year?
I don't have it exactly, but the last year it was a little over $24 an AUM.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Siebel.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the 6-year grazing lease with the Salmon Ranch as presented by the department. Alternative A, excuse me. I want to be specific.
Okay. Commissioner Brooke, second it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak to it? Anyone? We only have a couple of attendees and I don't see any hands raised. I'll give you a second to raise your hand if you'd like to comment. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just have
Yep,
for future reference, Mr. McDonald. I was just curious how the hunting access is managed. Is that as a block or a block management program, or do they have a specific number of hunters who are allowed to hunt on this ranch?
Mr. Chair or Madam Chair, Vice Chair Walsh, it's through the landowner, with landowner permission. So hunters contact the landowner for permission. My understanding from the region is it's fairly generous. I don't have specific numbers. Four is on that can add additional info, but my understanding is by permission from the landowner.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we'll move into Parks and Outdoor Recreation, and Renee Lemon is the new division administrator. If you would like to introduce yourself and welcome to the FWP.
Good morning, Chair Robinson, members of the commission. I'm happy to be here this morning. My name is Renee Lemon, and as Chair Robinson said, I'm the new Parks and Outdoor Recreation Division Administrator. I've been on the job just a little over 2 months now, and just to give you a little sense of my background, I spent the first 15 years of my career working with local Montana communities on land use planning and community development, which included parks and trails. And then 10 years ago, I moved to state government, and I actually started with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and then also was an administrator for the Department of Commerce and the Department of Revenue. Throughout my career, I've enjoyed working with boards and commissions, and I just really look forward to working with all of you and providing you the best information I can for your decision making.
All right, thank you. So we'll jump into the 2025 Fishing Access Site Annual Rule.
Chair Robinson, members of the commission, this is a proposal to renew the annual fishing access site rule. It's expiring this month, and this rule establishes fees for public use, special recreation permit fees for the Blackfoot and Madison rivers, organized and commercial group size limits for the Blackfoot River, and special commercial regulations for the Alberton Gorge. We're proposing just one change, and that's to remove the definitions section. And we're proposing this change because we've been working to consolidate the public use rules, and this will help us further simplify and point to the public use rules that we have consolidated instead of duplicating. This proposal went out for public comment through the commission process. We had 2 public comments. One was in support and the other one was related to the discount for camping. So if you flip to the second page of the actual draft annual rule, you'll see the table that has all of the fees. At the top is camping. So in statute, it states that camping fees must be discounted by 50% for people who are Montana residents and 62 years of age or older, disabled, or a veteran. So you can see in the table that for people meeting these criteria with a fishing license, they get the discount of $5 per night. And then for people without a fishing license, they get a discount of $7.50 per night. So this is almost a 60% discount. And so the question that we got in the public comment is, are we meeting statute? And the answer is yes, we're meeting statute because we're going above and beyond that 50% requirement.
Okay. And that I did ask her to clarify that. Oops, excuse me. I did ask her to clarify that just because it says must be 50%. It doesn't. So that is why I needed clarification also from that comment. So go ahead.
Chair Robinson, that's my presentation and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? Commissioner Walsh.
You bet. Thanks and welcome to FWP. One other comment was whether or not these funds are dedicated to improvement of the FASs. And I was curious, does any portion of these fees remain with the department for use on improvement of the FASs?
So Commissioner Robinson, Vice Chair Walsh. So I think that public comment was actually for the next commercial fee use permit fee. But I think I can answer your question. Are these camping fees used for improving our sites? And I believe the answer is yes, they are.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rook.
How do we come up with these fee rates? And when's the last time they were changed?
Statutorily, isn't it? If you go ahead.
So the fees are set by statute?
Chair Robinson, Commissioner, I believe that these have been carried forward in for quite some time. So I'm not sure if anybody else in the room has a sense for when they were last updated.
I guess I'm not sure that they're statutory. It just tells us about what that 50% part is statutory. But is there someone that can tell us?
It's been done by rule for.
Chair Robinson, Commissioner, it sounds like it has been done by commission rule for quite some time.
Okay.
So it hasn't been changed, like, ever?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Robinson, as long as I've paid attention for at least 10 years, I think they've been approximately the same, but it's a fairly regular, every couple of years, a regular visit back to the commission or the Parks Board, depending on the fee structure.
I guess that's a question too. Which board has the authority over? It must be us if we're approving the rules, but are the fees under our jurisdiction also?
Chair Robinson, yes, that's correct. Because these are fishing access sites, it's the commission that has the authority.
Okay, one follow-up question. Is there a limit on how many nights you can stay at the fishing access?
So.
Chair Robinson, Commissioner, yes, I believe it's 7 nights.
Wow, that's a heck of a deal. Being in the campground business, I can tell you $5 a night's not covering anything. It's not even covering the cost to pick up their trash. So maybe we should think about that in the future, but that's pretty, I don't know how that pencils out. And you got staff out there maintaining those campgrounds or the fishing access site if they are picking up the trash. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walsh.
I just add, Ms. Lemon, that Commissioner Brook is an expert in this field, and I 2026 proposed rule, we should really do some kind of market assessment and also take a look at the capital improvements that are needed in some of the FASs.
Oh, I guess that's kind of where I was leaning to with, I mean, it says we must be 50%, which is $6, not $5. Which $1, not sure statistically if that's going to do much more, but I was just curious why we went more than 50% for the recommendation.
Chair Robinson, I don't have the answer to that, but I can survey staff and certainly find out more.
But we would have the, I mean, what we're doing today is approving them. So if we wanted to go with $6, we could do it rather than 5. Question, I guess.
Chair Robinson, that is correct. I do know that we have quite a few signs around, so it would require some planning and some costs to update our signage.
More than $1. Yes.
Potentially.
One of those things.
Okay. All right. Just with somebody, I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make a motion.
Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the FAS annual rule with no changes for 2025.
Second.
Okay, so I do have a question on that because you did say that you do have one change and the motion is for no changes.
What was the change?
It was when you did your presentation, Renee, you said there was a change.
Chair Robinson, we updated the cover sheet, so the proposed motion does include the one change to remove the definition section.
Okay, we didn't get that, so.
I apologize for that.
Okay, so would you, Commissioner?
So should I redo the motion that I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the FAS annual rule with the changes from the department on the title for 2025?
Commissioner Lane, are you good with that?
Yes. Second.
All right, sorry about that. I just saw, when I heard you say that, I saw that there was a difference. So any further questions from the commission?
I just guess I would say Madam Chair, I would like one comment about this is that I do think I urge the Parks Department to go back and look at these FAS sites as Vice Chair Walsh talked about and start working towards something to keep these fees kind of in a fair return on our investment. The fishing access sites are heavily used and some of the camping that's going on there, if there is a lot, I haven't seen a lot at the ones I've been at, but I don't think that is a very good rate for a nice place to stay for the night and have your trash picked up and cleaned up. And so I think we should look at that.
Okay. Commissioner Lane, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of going with what Commissioner Brook had said, I just think we need to, I agree, we do need to look at the fee structure, but we also need to make sure that it is kept affordable for the public to be able to use. But I also understand that it has to be able to, if nothing more than break even. So I'm just asking for caution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before I go out to public comment? Okay, is there anyone in any of the regional offices who would like to comment on this motion? Anyone online? There's no hands raised. I'll give you a couple seconds to raise your hand if you would like to comment. Okay, I do not see anyone. So we will go ahead with the vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, Renee, if you would go ahead with the 2025 commercial use permit fee, please.
Chair Robinson, members of the commission, this proposal is to renew the existing commercial fee use rule for fishing access sites, fisheries conservation areas, wildlife management areas, and FWP administrative sites. The rules expired at the end of 2024 and need to be renewed for 2025. On this rule, we aren't proposing any changes. There was one public comment. The person was not opposed to the fees, but would like to see that they go towards improving the sites. And so to clarify that these permit fees do go into our general license dollars, which support all kinds of programs for hunting and angling, including our FAS sites. And that's my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. Renee, do we have licensed outfitters on wildlife management areas?
Chair Robinson, Commissioner, I'm seeing folks shaking their heads in the room that no, we do not.
So there's no outfitting on any wildlife management areas, hunting or otherwise?
No hunting on video issue.
Chair. Quentin, go ahead and speak up. Yeah.
Chair, this is Ken McDonald, Wildlife Division Administrator. We do have some special use permits where, like, an outfitter will have a permit to cross the WMA to get to Forest Service, but no hunting itself on the WMA.
So how much is that? Is that under the licensed outfitter commercial use permit fee, or that's a different fee?
I believe that's commercial use.
That's commercial use stuff. Commercial use permit that's issued.
Chair Robinson, Commissioner, so that is the commercial use permit that's issued for that activity.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, Commissioner Siebel.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission renew the existing commercial use permit fee rule for fishing access sites, fisheries, conservation areas, wildlife management areas, and FWP administrative sites with no changes for the 2025 calendar year.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Lane seconded. Okay, with no questions, I will ask if there's anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak to the motion. Anyone? There's no hands. Oops, did I hear somebody? No hands raised online. Okay. Just give me one more chance for any questions from the commission.
One more question.
Yep, go ahead.
Under the licensed outfitter and the commercial use permit fee, there's B is $5 per client day conducted, or C, $4 per allocated client day. Could you explain what the difference is?
I don't know if I can explain the difference. Anybody else?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Book, I don't know that there's anybody in the room that's got a super square answer on that. My guess is it's likely tied to like rationed use days, perhaps on like the Beaverhead Big Hole, where you may not have difference between client days conducted versus actual river use days you may have on the books. and may or may not get used. That's my best guess of what that's tied to. I can see a couple other nodding heads, so.
Any further questions?
I guess I still don't understand. So they pay for a client day even if they don't take a client?
Go ahead, I think Quentin might be able to.
Yeah, I think that is correct, Commissioner Brook. If they, so two different scenarios, and we might best assume that somewhere in the past we run into this circumstance or demand for this sort of allocation structure. And yeah, it's two payment approaches. One is on the client day conducted that literally happens, $5 a day, or a lower rate for allocated, some of which may not be used.
But they would be then permitted to use it in the event they had the opportunity
Yes.
to put the client on the lot.
Yes.
So they would have that space to do it, and they pay for that as opposed. And my guess is the actual conducted trip is probably tied more to, again, Big Hole, Beaverhead, River You Stay outfitter who is in that smaller pool has the smaller pool of user days that they know what they're going to be on the river with, as opposed to some of the outfitters with a larger number of user days.
Okay, thank you. Just one follow-up question.
Yep, go ahead.
Is a client day, like if you're in a boat, is that one client? Or if you have two people, do you pay for two clients?
It would be tied to the number of people in the boat. So two people in the boat would be two client days.
Okay,
Chair.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, the only thing we have left on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the regional offices with someone who would like to speak to something that was not on the agenda? There's no one with their hands raised online. I'll give you a couple seconds to raise your hand if you want to speak to something, to an item that is not on the agenda. Okay. No one has come forward. So with that, thank you everyone for taking the time today. Glad we didn't drive all the way to Helena for this. we will be in person next time for sure. And thanks to the FWP staff and the commission, and meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in June.
Thank you.
Thanks.